The flow.
Go with the flow. All right, we are alive with Rohit Gijare.
Hello.
Hello, Rohit. Thanks for joining me. I know that there are a lot of dancers who are up and coming or who are already in an industry that can learn a lot from you. So thanks again for taking the time to be here.
Of course, anything for you.
Thanks, man. Um, So I want to get straight into it. I always ask my the people that I'm interviewing how they got started in dance because I always think it's very interesting what
Mhm.
the reason behind that. So what got you started in dance?
So funny thing, I was born in India, so I lived there for like 7 or 8 years before we moved here. My parents were always like into the arts, so like my dad plays a lot of different instruments, composes his own music, so he's really into that and knows a lot about music. My mom also sings here and there with him, so they're very into the artsy scene. And then I think they exposed it to me when I was younger. So like I was like, they put me in some random stuff in school or whatever. And then when we moved here, they continued those classes. And I think one thing led to another, and they were like, "Oh, he seems like he's getting a little bit good at this at the age of like 9 or 10, whatever that was, right?" At least like it seemed like I had somewhat of a knack for it. So I think it was always something that I did growing up too, even as a kid. I would watch all those like Bollywood movies or Bollywood dances, and I'd just try to copy them off the TV. Back when YouTube wasn't a thing, we'd have to just watch it on TV, and then yeah, it kind of just kept going from there. One thing led to another.
And your parents were, they're since they were in the arts, that made them supportive of you, right?
Oh yeah, my parents are probably the reason why I kind of really went into it because they asked me at a fairly young age if I wanted to do this as a profession. Um,
Oh,
yeah, which is pretty unheard of in you know mostly South Asian cultures a lot of the
hmm
time, and even in general, I think like most parents don't think about the arts as a regular steady job right
oh
off the
yeah,
bat, right?
100%.
So for them to bring that conversation up, I think made everything so much easier for me because
Wow.
it was like half the battle was already won, and having their support and then kind of just having them push me into the right direction made everything a lot easier.
How old were you when they asked you that?
12.
Oh, that's young.
Yeah, it's young, but also like nowadays, especially with like dance becoming so much bigger, like kids start dancing at like 5 and like are dancing like professional quality level. But yeah, 12 is still young. So then when they asked me, they're like, "Oh, do you want to do this with profession?" I was like, "Oh, I like to dance." Like at 12 years old, what do you really know what dance as a profession is?
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
but it was good though. At least it helped me go in the right direction. At least with them having their support, which made it a lot easier.
Right. And then from there, did you join like collegiate competition teams and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, so then when we had that whole conversation, then they put me into like gata classes and stuff to get like some kind of formal training. So I did about 7 or 8 years of that. I don't consider myself a Kathak dancer, but that's like my primary technique or foundation that I learned in classical
hmm
dance. And then one thing led to another. And then in college, yeah, I did all the whole collegiate dance scene for the entire 4 years, start to finish all the way through.
Um, and then that's how you joined. I'm assuming that's how you joined Atma Performing Arts, where you and I met.
Yeah, so because there's already so many different connections within that company through my college dance team, because a pretty majority of them had gone to either Rutgers or had danced on Rutgers Sapa, which was our college dance team. It was like a lineage connection. One thing led to another, and then I met a lot of them, met Amit, and then I joined in like my sophomore year of college.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And then how did you get into Dance India Dance? How did that span out?
So they had done a season here, the year before I did it, in America, and then the year after they decided to host like online submissions or auditions or whatever. Um, So I just put my name in there, like threw in a video, and then happened to get picked. And I think the cool thing was, at least this time around, they were doing it in India. So getting to actually be on an actual set, was a lot more of an enticing opportunity for me as well. I was like, oh, well, I'm willing to travel that far, even if it means like, it might not be the full on months end of the show. At least you're getting the experience of dancing on a set, seeing what it's like to create or work on a reality dance TV show, and what that really entails.
Yeah, what does that really entail?
A lot of different things. Without getting into too many details, obviously, but you have to really figure out, like, you're really rehearsing pretty much every day for like 8 hours or so, trying to get these 2 or 3 minute routines down to like perfect sync, because you know, as much as you'd like to think, you only get to do it once, even if it's TV, right? You only really get to do it once. They don't let you do it again. Um, and then because it's just you dancing, they're really trying to make sure they bring out whatever and any crazy skills that you may have, or what makes you stand out is ultimately trying to play to your strengths to the best of your abilities. So it's
Right.
a little bit challenging, because like when you think of it and you're trying to dance solo, you're like, I don't know what my strengths are. Like, oh, maybe that's not good enough for a TV show. So I think that was a little bit of a challenging part, but I think good learning curve in terms of like how to give interviews, or like how to operate, with the whole behind the scenes process. So it was a nice way to kind of learn that, what goes on to put on like one episode for a show.
Yeah, right. How did you work through that when they were asking you like what are your strengths are and all of that?
So I think like in the initial rehearsals and stuff, they also have a team of choreographers that help, if you need it or want to make it a little bit fit for the TV as well. So they help you while you choreograph your own routine as well. But then they also will say like, come prepared with 1 or 2 routines ahead of time, so
Mm,
that we can see what your strengths are, what you're good at, and what you may not be as good at. So that way, for the next routine that we'll create, we'll make sure to either pick a song that fits within your mold, and then try to really bring out as many things as we can from there. So I think it was just a little bit of like, show us what you got, and then we'll work from there. And then, so we don't also throw too many things that you cannot do either, because then that would be a disaster.
hey, can you do a backflip, sir?
No. I'm pretty sure they did ask that though at some point.
No.
No,
Um,
cannot.
from gaining that experience, is there anything that you learned that was really valuable that you feel like you may have not have learned if you didn't do the show?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing was just seeing it, being able to work with different types of dancers and different choreographers, or different minds that have been in the field for a long time, and just seeing them work in action, and seeing that like, oh, okay, well, this world is a really big place in terms of talent and hard work, and there's a
Mm,
lot of people that can do a lot of different types of things, um, and they're really good at it. So it was like another way for me to get a little bit more motivated to work on my own craft, and become better, train more, just continue to keep making things better for myself, so that I don't get too complacent. I think that was a
right,
good learning curve, like a good eye opener. Like, oh, well, there's a lot of people that are a lot better than you, but
right.
maybe the thing is to find out what you're good at and really run with it as much as you can, and really work on it.
Did you feel like that really helped you hold in on who Rohit is?
Yeah, I think so, because I think in one way, as we are saying, it helped me figure out what my strengths were, right?
Mhm.
And what like I generally liked or didn't like in terms of being a dancer. Like, not everyone likes to do certain types of dance styles or is good at it, right off the bat. So I think it gave me a window into seeing like, oh, I'm already getting good at this. I can be good at X, Y, Z. So now I can just hone in on like 2 or 3 things rather than a million things, and
Right,
really try to emphasize that. Because if I try to focus on all these thousands of things at once, I'm not going to be good at one thing at all, right? So it gave me a little bit of concentration of like what I can work on and what I actually look like when I didn't have those refined skills, or like when it wasn't as refined.
Right. That makes sense. Because you do a lot of choreography, but you also perform a lot. Is there one that you prefer more?
I get this question a lot. I don't
Oh,
know. I do have a preference in terms of like I think I like stuff that's a little bit more traditional and a little bit more like Indian, just because I think it's getting lost a little bit more and more nowadays.
for sure.
With just like, the Indian music becoming so much more westernized. And there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just like someone who's kind of grown up and listening to like how, beautiful Indian music can actually be, and that kind of dancing, which is what makes it's so attractive for people outside of Indian culture to be like, wow, I want to know more about this. It's always, for me personally, a little bit more fun to do stuff that's uh, in that realm, just because one, nowadays it's not done as much, and then two, it's also like nice to like see where I can stay a little bit more traditional and maybe even bring in some of the more like modern or Western influences that I've kind of learned a little bit along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What do you feel? What are your thoughts on that? I feel like a lot of Indian dance is really getting more westernized. Obviously, not just the music, but in terms of the dance moves themselves.
Hmm.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? You want to go deeper on that?
Yeah, why not? Uh, okay, so I think it's a little bit different for me just because I grew up in that weird time where it's like Indian music was trying to be Western, but was really bad at being Western. They were trying really hard, and until like they got more influence and bigger people to kind of shift there or learn more about the Western stuff. Now it really sounds like it can be produced in Hollywood, or like in the
Mhm.
American music industry with like Indian lyrics overall. So it was like I feel like sometimes I get caught in the middle of it, where it's like, well, I kind of should learn this side of stuff too, right? Because that's kind of what people are gravitating towards. That's where the industry is kind of going. So I can't disclude it completely. So, which is why, like, yeah, you've seen me dance to other types of dance outside of the traditional semi-classical or whatever, uh, more frequently nowadays. But it's interesting though, man. I personally, I like I'm all for bringing different movement, different types of cultures together. A part of me, maybe a little bit of a traditionalist. I like seeing a lot of, you know, Indian movement, like not the way it should be done. I don't think there's a right way and a wrong way, but there's just something magical about each dance form, right, in
Mhm.
itself. Uh, that when you see a Kathak dancer dance to Kathak, or like a Kathak inspired piece or Bharatanatyam inspired piece. There's something different. Whereas when you feel a certain different way than you would uh, if it's a little bit more mix and match or fused together with different styles. I think that connection, at least for me, hones in a little bit deeper because I guess I was brought up with it a little bit more. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. That's just like personal opinion, of course, and I like doing both. Don't get me wrong, but it's very interesting to see like where dance is like kind of going now, especially like Indian dance because like Indian dance is not staying as Indian. So I feel like anytime somebody does something, for a lack of better words, more Indian, it like resonates more now because it's like less frequently seen.
Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah. I hope people who are listening will bring it back once in a while.
Yeah.
Um, as since you're a choreographer through and through for sure, what's your process like in creating choreography?
Oh man, I feel like my process is a little bit of a hot mess. Because a lot of it I think depends on like my just mental mood also, right? Sometimes or a lot of the times I work really well under pressure. So it's like if you give me 2 weeks to create a piece, I probably won't create it till the day before or like two
Oh,
days
I
before.
feel you.
You
I
know,
feel
you
you.
know what I'm saying? Like you'll start unless it's like a massive undertaking of like a 6 or 7 minute piece, and like okay, I'll take it in chunks. But like if it's like a minute and a half, 2 minutes here and there, I was like, all right, let's just do this like 2 days before. I'll get my creative juices flowing. And it's weird because like sometimes I always tell myself I don't want to put the stress on myself. I want to make sure I'm prepared, really know it thoroughly. even if you do 16 counts in a day, just try it out. It just hasn't happened yet. But yeah, otherwise, like the actual process is literally just play the music, keep playing it, move around till something sticks, and then if something sticks, just build on it. And there's also been times where I've made like a minute of choreography and like the next day just hated every single second of it, just deleted it right off the bat. So honestly, it's just a lot of hit and miss. If it sticks, it'll one day it'll happen within 30 minutes. Other days it'll take me a couple of days of different, like an hour long session each per day to put it together. I think it's just a matter of like sometimes urgency, deadlines also help me. And then if I just really like feel the song, then I can, sometimes I'm able to knock it out within an hour fully. So I don't know.
Oh, that's nice. I
Sometimes.
sometimes. It also depends on the song. I mean, I'm sure there are so many variables, right? Like, do
Yeah.
you prefer having listened to the song just a million times before you choreograph, or that's not really a factor for you?
Oh no, I think if I know the song personally as well from before, I think it already helps me going into it. If it's something new, then yeah, I need to like really familiarize myself with it before I can really get into it. Because as you know, like you've choreographed so many things. Like when you listen to it and you're just listening to it, you just hear music, right? And you're like, yeah,
Right,
jam it out. But like when you start trying to create stuff, you listen and you hear so many different things that maybe not the average person would, right? We're like, oh yeah, and now we're gonna hit that back little bell in the back, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? But like, you know what I'm talking about because you've done it, right? So it's like it's a very interesting process because like personally, I like to let it all sink in. It's to the point where I hate it because I've heard it too
right.
many times, and then by then it becomes easier because like every little nuance for the most part that's coming out.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be able to connect with the song, even if you don't
Mhm.
like the song. You still have to be able to connect with it in some
Yeah.
way. As a choreographer or even just as an artist, how judgmental are you with your work? Because you mentioned, like you just absolutely hated something and, you have no problem throwing things away. But does like your mental mood affect the way you judge yourself in terms of choreography or anything like that?
Yes and no. I mean, I think personally, I think this is not just my own sentiment. I think this is a lot of creators and creatives in general that like I hate watching my own videos after a certain
Oh,
amount of like exactly exactly what I mean. I literally watched a video today from like a year ago. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I look so bad, and I maybe it's good for us in one way or another because like we're trying to keep getting ourselves better and better by each project that we do. But honestly, watching videos sucks because you're just like, I could have done X, Y, Z better, and you figured that out within the first 5 seconds of the video. It's not even you have another minute left to watch, and like I have to stop myself. Like I can't do it. Otherwise, like I'm gonna hate everything I do. But yeah, I think like depending on my mood or like how I'm feeling, there's times where I'm like, yeah, like you just really hate what you're making, right? Like no matter how much, because you're your own worst critic to a certain degree, you're already comfortable in what you're doing. So I think the hardest thing for me, maybe it is for you as well, like just trying to be like, how can I make this look different each and every time, even though, yeah, you have to stay true to your style, whatever that is for
right.
each person, but there's always people that are like, oh, it looks too similar or whatever, and that's not the driving force, but even for myself, it's like, okay, I want to make sure I'm trying to challenge my body to do different movements. And if it's coming too easy, sometimes maybe that's not a good thing, right? Also,
Hmm.
but then you
Hmm.
get into this rabbit holes like, oh, am I thinking too much? Right? Like, am I overthinking it? Maybe it's okay for this one thing, but who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there's just so much judgment around like any area while you're
Yeah.
choreographing that sometimes it really, really helps to have a deadline,
Yeah.
100%, because you have no time to judge yourself in a way.
You just
Just gotta
kind of
get it done.
go.
Yeah,
You go for it, and then you'll figure it out. It works out somehow.
it always works out. But yeah, I feel you on if you have a 2 week deadline, you won't do it 2 days before. That's just always been a thing.
A little
Um,
bit of a problem
yeah,
for
same.
me.
Well, I watch you all the time on Instagram, and you seem to just and YouTube, and you just seem to churn out choreography like no other's business. And some people, some people take a long time, and they really have to sit and choreograph. Whereas for you, I'm just seeing you churn it out left and right. Is that something that you do on purpose, or it's just, is that part of your approach of just like constantly creating for, evolving sake, or am I just reading too much into it?
No, I think there's two parts to it, right? One, I think the reason even why I started making whatever YouTube videos back in whenever I started was just to challenge myself to create different things consistently, whether it was good or bad. That's another story. But
Mm,
it was just more of like for me, it was like kind of that in between time where I was like, I wasn't working with any dance companies. I don't have my own dance company. I was like freelancing a little bit, and I was like, oh, I need to keep doing something, and I can't wait for work to come to me. So let me just keep doing something, right? See what happens, and then just work on it. And it doesn't really matter how many people watch it. It's like at least you're trying different things consistently. And then the more and more you try it, you figure out like, okay, this looks good, this looks bad. I can work on completing my moves, blah blah blah. So now I think more so now I'm just on a little bit of a groove where it's like I like to create, right? Whether sometimes I film it or not, that's a different story. And now since I am able to teach a couple classes once a week or twice a week, depending on whatever month it is or however the schedule is looking, as often that I'm teaching, I'm getting more chances to just create a lot of different things, right? So on a typical week, I might be teaching like, 6 to 10 classes in a week spread out. But because I'm already just working on that many sets of choreography or like 3 or 4 different sets of choreography, it's like, okay, well, I'm building onto it. It's sinking in. I can just create something as it is.
mm,
If I'm teaching a workshop, I have to make up something new if it's for a new song. And I was like, all right, well, I already made this whole routine up, kind of refined it. Now let's just film it because, like, why not? You've already made it. And if you really hate it, just don't post it. But I think I've just gotten in a little bit of a groove where it's like, all right, well, I'm already creating, so let's just keep pushing it, and then see how much you can, change your own choreography or like try to do new things. The more and more you do it, so it's more like a personal, I don't know, exercise or goal to see how much more I can like continue to push myself to be better.
mm. That is brilliant. Your process of starting YouTube, when it first started, because now a lot of people obviously watch your stuff, but do you remember when it kind of shifted to where you were starting to gain momentum for viewers and stuff?
Yeah. So I think I started YouTube videos so early on, like when I don't think like Indian dance videos were as common, right?
Mm,
Before there was a Bolly shake, before anything, all that kind of stuff, right? So initially it was like we would do a lot of different like concept videos, but like no, great, we liked it. It was different. Uh, didn't get as many views per se. Like again, this is just me like in terms of judging it off of views, right? I think it picked up a little bit more when I really started like filming my workshops, and that was like as of like a year and a half to 2 years ago. 2 years ago at this point,
oh,
um,
recent.
recent. And I think what happened with that was one. It's obviously a lot of it is whether you're just lucky in the timing that you do whatever song, or you do something that people haven't heard in a long time. All of a sudden, people keep searching it or whatever, right? And two is just honestly, it's plain luck that someone finds one video, they'll share it, they'll watch your other videos, and X Y Z from there. Um, but I think with the classes, what happened was it gave me a structured schedule of when I'm posting videos. That was like every other week because I was teaching a workshop every other week in the city. So it's like, okay, well, I'm not doing anything too crazy. I'm still putting out better quality work than I was putting out before, but it's not highly produced per se, right? But I think it's very nice for people to see, you know, dancers of different styles and experience levels kind of still dancing to the same choreography or whatever that magic, whatever you want to call it, what attracted people. I think that's what helped it, you know, uh, take it up another notch, if you want to describe it that way. And now recently, quarantine of all the things in the world did not think that would help overall. And like, in because like I'm literally dancing in my living room, right? I'm not doing anything crazy, putting on my phone on my windowsill and recording myself. And the only thing that's different is I happen to get my wife dancing with me to
And
whatever
your
I'm
dog.
making, and my dog. The dog is the key, honestly. It's not even just the two of us; it's the dog. Um, yeah, so I think long story short, even like yeah, sure, there's an uptick in certain views and here and there. Uh, I mean, we talk about this all the time. There's really no guaranteed success either way because there's so many dancers that even I watch on YouTube that I was like, these people need more views, these people need more subscribers, and like, how do you get them out there more and more? And it's unfortunate because like just the way sometimes people search things or just whatever, and a lot of it is luck, honestly. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think it definitely helps that you're consistently putting up content because a lot of really talented dancers don't don't fall into that consistent category. I think people really forget that it's a lot of it has to do with consistency.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then again, I think everyone's also, especially if you're dancing full time, right? Everyone's level of involvement on different platforms is very different, right?
For sure.
On a normal year, also, like, you and I also would be doing a lot more live performances, maybe tours or different stage shows, wherever. So when that kind of stuff happens, well, obviously our time gets limited in how much we can really focus on online content.
Yeah, that's totally true. Um, you talked about like you were posting videos when you weren't in a company. What made you start your own?
Uh, I just like it was a goal of mine, I think, kind of like once I really figured out what the dance scene here was and like what dancing on a company, a couple of different companies throughout early on. I was like, this is something cool. This is something like it seems like, you one, I think it was cool because you got to collaborate with so many different types of dancers. And when you get to collaborate and work with so many different types of dancers, you ultimately yourself are challenged enough to think a little bit more, think a little bit outside the box, and you work together and you collaborate and you can really create a lot of cool different things. So I think the idea of collaborating was always a big thing for me, and I knew I just wanted to start something where I was like, I want that kind of platform where I can you know, have a bunch of dancers, hopefully that, and a lot of them ended up becoming like really close friends, obviously. And that's the other beauty of it, right? You get so close with these people, you get to interact with them, you share all these things that you do, like all that passion for dance kind of all just comes together. Um, and it's just beautiful to see all the different ideas that people have that I know for a fact I wouldn't have thought of just by myself.
Right.
So to really try to push the envelope as much as possible, and working with different individuals is always like really really fun for me. And it's always fun. Yeah, sure, it's my dance company, but I always love times when I can just take a step back and just learn from someone else, because once you have danced enough and you're working, there's not too many times where you get to just learn overall or like just take it in a lot of the times, right? There'll be a handful of times where you're like, okay, someone's going to teach me choreography and all I have to do is just learn it. Easy, let's do it.
Yes.
All for it. So I think that was the one of the pushing factors of why I wanted to start this, was because like I think it's super fun to learn from other people as well and kind of broaden the thought process a little bit more.
Right. And was that something that you couldn't do being in other companies?
Yes and no. I think it just depends. I think previous companies that I was on, I obviously had a lot of creative freedom, right? So it was nothing like that I didn't. I wasn't being held back for any reason or any shape or form. I had a lot of freedom in terms of being able to create stuff for shows and things like that. Uh, I think maybe it was just more of like a personal thing, or it's like I also wanted to leave or create something of my own, that I could put my own stamp on it. Like, okay, look, you created this from ground up, and
Mm,
see where that goes. It was like another challenge kind of thing for me. It's like, oh, now you've kind of done this. Can you do this as well? And what would that look like for you? And I think the harder challenge was like finding my own identity or the company's identity within that. Because there's so many dance companies that are really good, and have their own sets of skills and dancers and their own different visions. So I think my thing was just trying to figure out what my vision was, know how I can make that come to life through a dance company as well.
Hmm. So what would you say makes you different from any other company out there?
Ooh, fantastic question. I think,
In terms
well,
of not even just visually from an audience standpoint, but
mhm,
also the inner workings and the dynamic within the company as well.
yeah. So I think let's go broader to inner. Like, so I think from the outside looking in, I think what I really tried to do, and all of us collectively, is to try to at least create different. And right now, we don't have our own show or anything like that, but we're trying to create a little bit more of an online presence. So create different types of projects or videos that highlight different dance styles within our dance company, right? So we have a lot of dancers that are either classically trained or like more Western trained, or like whatever their dance styles are, and kind of just see how we can mix and match a little bit of everything, and bring it while still kind of, because we are in one way or another South Asian dance company, how can we keep that identity true, but still also show that we're still Americans as well? So kind of really balancing that cultural difference, but not a difference, but kind of seeing how they can mash together, in a as much of a cohesive way as possible. And I think from the inner working standpoint of view, I've really, we really tried our best to try to keep it as like open and transparent between all of our dancers, and me being someone who's danced in many other dance companies. I think I try my best to take it from that point of view. It was like, if someone is dancing for my company, I want to take it from their point of view. It's like, all right, well, if you're dancing, I want to make sure it's worth your time ultimately,
Right.
right? And I want to make sure that if you're putting in time for a rehearsal, or we're scheduling out everything properly, and you have it weeks on ahead of time. You can block it off your schedule. So really trying to utilize all of the, whether it's like, and this is like nitty gritty stuff, right? Whether it's like Google Calendars, or like using Slack for like communication purposes, or like sharing folders with tutorial videos and stuff like that. So like trying to be as efficient as possible, through on that sense. And one thing that I do really like that we do is, at least when we had rehearsals, we would try to at least dedicate at least like an hour and a half to 2 hours of the initial part of the rehearsal to working on some different type of technique. So whether it's me or another dancer or some other person from the company or someone outside the company, we would see if they would want to come in, or they would just, you know, would focus on a specific different technique. So it's like, you come in a rehearsal, we're going to work on dances, of course, but we're also going to learn something as much as we can, given whatever time frame that we have.
Oh, that's really empowering for the dancers also.
Yeah, I think it's cool because I think it makes you feel involved, and ultimately that's what you want to do when if you're part of any kind of company, where you're, of course, more people are involved. Some people may be more involved than others, and obviously not everyone's a full-time dancer, so I totally understand that. But at least having the opportunity that to be as engaged as possible with many different things happening at the same time, I think makes it a little bit more incentivizing for people to want to keep coming, I think.
Yeah. We've talked about this and I'm going to bring it up. What are your
Okay.
thoughts on exclusivity? Because there are so many Indian dance companies out there, and schools, I'll say schools as well, but let's stick to companies
Hmm.
that are extremely exclusive. What are your thoughts on it?
Long story short, okay. If no, like long story short, if I could, right, in terms of exclusivity, what I think of it is this, right? And this is me again, talking from a dancer point of view, right? If a company can offer me enough work that I don't need to seek more work, I am down to be exclusive, right?
With
But
benefits.
yeah. I mean, like if that's a thing that's allowed, and that's like you're able to do that as a company for any dancer, and that's huge, right? And that's mostly big companies that are able to do such things. But if you are a company like that, then you should be able to offer that to your dancers, right? But if you're saying I only want you to dance for me, two things are happening. the dancer is not going to like it, right? Because that means they're turning away work that could be extra income at that point. And two, I think until you're at that point, it can only one way or another benefit you, right? If people are still working outside of your company, because at least they're seeing different points of view, right? And they can technically, and it's happened before, right? Within our company, like if other people have worked in different companies, and if they see something that's a good habit that we should form ourselves, or something that we're not doing the right way that can be done better, it only helps, right? It's one way or another, like it can bring in positive change too if taken the right way. And it also brings in different ideas or different thoughts of thinking because every company operates differently and it works differently for every company. So not necessarily that idea may work for us, but at least it's another thought that can be brought in. Because once you're in it, you tend to think the way you're already operating as it is, and that goes for everyone. So yeah, man, if you can offer exclusivity and you have that much work, I think it's worth it. But I can't, even me personally, I can't dare to say that to anybody. I just don't feel right, because it's like I can't stop you from getting work because I'm not giving you enough work, and that's hard.
Right.
It's hard to do.
It's hard to say to, especially to someone who's a full-time dancer.
Yeah. I think maybe more so in that perspective, right? So maybe a little bit easier to attack that topic if it's someone that isn't dancing full time in one way or another. But again, it just depends on how much your company is doing and what is happening, right? So if we personally have a couple months, 3, 4 months where we're not that heavy or something, I can't be like, well, keep coming to rehearsal, but we don't have anything to do, realistically, that wouldn't feel right. I get why exclusivity works, right? I get it because it keeps a little bit more of a refined identity for companies, right? These are our dancers, right? They really stand true with us. I get it. I totally get it. Hopefully one day I can offer that, but until then, I personally, that's just my point of view. It's like, if you can't offer that kind of work, it's really hard for full-time dancers, especially, to be like, okay, well, let me leave off X amount of money on the side when I'm not getting that much money from this company or so.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously there are other opportunity costs, like you said, the ability, like they're bringing in new things that you would have never even thought of, perhaps, and better habits, better ways of dealing with situations within a company that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe I may be in the minority in that thought process, right? But just a personal opinion of what what I've kind of seen, or like how it's gone for me. And I think until I'm comfortable with it to offer that, it doesn't feel right to me to ask that.
Hey, man, I'm with you. I'm with you. Well, Rohit, one of the things that I just absolutely love about you is that you're super giving. Like even during quarantine, when quarantine hit, lockdown hit, um, you were just always on the lives, teaching IG lives, and you are on a roll. What made you decide to start teaching? Compared to other creators, other teachers, you were just really on there. So, yeah, what made you decide to start offering that, and for free also?
Yeah, well, I think it was two things. One out of pure necessity, in terms of like, hey man, I'm going to lose and essentially lost 6 months of work. Okay, now we need to pivot like right off the bat because bills aren't going anywhere, right? So one, I think I was thinking for a while how to shift a little bit towards the virtual platforms, but virtual platforms were still not a means of how people wanted to learn, right? But because of certain situations, XYZ happened. And I think the necessity part was like, okay, I do need to continue classes. So we like shifted all of our classes right in the first week. Everything went online. And then I think the online portion of it was one, I also wanted to figure out what that meant in terms of dance and teaching and all of that stuff. And I was like, well, there's only one way I can really do this is like, I want to know what I teach when there's no one around, right? Which is essentially what virtual teaching is. So yeah, let me just give it a try. And then one thing led to another. People liked it. I was like, okay, well, heck, I have nothing to lose, right? In terms of this, I at least I have to like keep making my mind work. And if I just sit
Right.
here in a house doing nothing, I'm gonna go crazy and then start panicking about not making enough money. And not that like these free classes made money in that sense, but it was just a way to keep my mind busy and creative as much as possible. And it was nice because I think seeing what people really needed in that specific time frame as well is because everyone was going through the same thing, right? And I think a lot more people were in a far worse situation than I was, right? I was so lucky that I could teach online and still work to a certain capacity. So I was like, all right, well, it's not hurting me to give a free class and really not taking up that many hours of my life to do this. And it's nice because like then you get to connect with people that you normally wouldn't.
Yeah.
So and I get it. Trust me, like teaching online or like and also learning online is super hard. So like for anyone that does it in terms of learning online classes, it's still crazy, right? It still takes me a while to learn a routine online forever. But I don't know, I just decided to do it because it was like it felt fun after like the first two classes. And I was like, I'll just keep doing it as long as I can. And then one thing led to another. I did a little too much in terms of burning myself out. But either way, that's just the side effects of it. But again, it was fun. Honestly, I had a lot of fun connecting with people, and that's why I keep doing it whenever I can, even now.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you learned in your, teaching online process? Like, any tips you can share for other teachers teaching online?
Yeah. So what I've learned is I think energy is key. And not like dance energy. I think like your own just energy of teaching, how you're portraying yourself as you teach makes such a huge difference because in person, you're already feeding off of each other's energy, right? But when you're like in a Zoom class or like you're on IG Live or YouTube Live, like you're not getting any energy back, right? You're just
Yeah.
getting like thumbs up or emojis or whatever, and that's not the same feel. But I think you just have to create a mental space for yourself where like I'm gonna pretend there's like 10 people with me and we're just like I'm talking like I normally would in a class, right? So for me, like I like being weird as it is in a class. So I try to just bring that to an online class. So it's like, okay, it's just a class, guys. Let's not take this that seriously. Just if you mess up, you mess up. You'll be okay. But it's a matter of just bringing your own energy and personality a little bit more because that's what's gonna ultimately want people to take your class. I think because there's so many classes being offered. There's so many better dancers than me. Even I would say, right? There's a lot of better dancers than me. But I think just kind of what kind of helped me was being able to connect with people. And the more you connect with people, especially in this day and time, I think those connections will go a lot longer that in the long run and even in the short run. And just people wanting to take your class, making feel like, this is fun, but I'm also still learning something.
Right. And you also feel like, oh, you're here. You're here in my space.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Right.
Mhm. Which that's how I feel whenever I would watch you on IG Live. I'd be like, oh yeah, like I'm there. We're together on this.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
what's been the highlight of your career so far?
Oh my, a highlight of my career? That's a hard one. You mean
Yeah,
like a specific thing that I've done or like just anything?
anything. Yeah, it can be both. It can be both.
Uh okay. Let's try to let's try to quantify it. I'll give some certain moments where I was like, okay, I feel like I'm doing something right here. I think, well, obviously, Dance India Dance was big in terms of just like kind of validating your path, and then afterwards, I think I got to do two cool things right afterwards, like 2 years after, like back to back years. So I got to work with Knuckle on So You Think You Can Dance, and
Oh
that was
yeah,
cool to be able to like even just assist him for that. And and then I also got to work with Vidya Vox for one
video
of her
box.
music for one of her music videos. And I think that like 3 year period, I was like, oh, okay, we're doing okay. We're getting there. We're one way or another, one step at a time. We're getting there. We're getting a little bit better in terms of opportunities and working with like the right individuals and people that you kind of want to be in the same like creative space with, you know, whether it's people that have been doing it longer than you or like that's something that you can learn from, or people that you are like more household names that people kind of know. And then ultimately I think being able to choreograph again for a touring show, and this time it was essentially me doing, you know, being the main choreographer on the show, um, along with obviously like my wife also became the co-choreographer down the line. But I think it was also another validating point because I was like, that was also something I kind of wanted to do myself. You know, still is a goal, creating my
Right,
own show, but it was like essentially felt like it was really my own show because I created every single dance in that show overall, right? And that was touring, obviously until now due to COVID stopped, but you know, touring show that's hopefully will continue to tour further on, and so it's nice. I think my biggest thing was to be able to do as many things within dance or arts as much as possible and not feel like I was boxed into one thing. Um, so I think just looking back, even now, even thinking about it, I feel it feels great to me that like I can say like, oh, I have worked, I can do stuff on, you know, videos, I can do stuff on a stage, or I can do stuff for a TV show or whatever it is. Like I feel like I feel seasoned enough now that even if I may have not explicitly done an XYZ thing coming later on, if it does, I still feel like I can pull it off one way or another.
right,
Because I've essentially done that in the past where it's like, well, you didn't do a music video before, but you kind of pulled it off. So, you know, it's one of those fake it till you make it kind of things. And now I just feel it feels just validating now, looking back at it. It's like maybe it's not the specific accolades, it's more so just like being able to say like I hit some of the goals that I wanted to. I never put a timeline on it, but it was just some stuff that was always like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. I don't know how, but seeing that it all kind of is coming to fruition or has come to fruition feels really
right. Yeah, no, I'm so proud of you. I'm super proud of you. Love watching what you're doing, and I think you're really hitting all the mediums, and not a lot of people are doing that. So that's really really awesome what you're doing.
good.
Um,
Hey, thank you.
well, we have some questions from Instagrammers, so I'm gonna
Hey,
hit
okay.
those. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then just so I don't take any more of your time, I'm gonna have these rapid questions. I call them 5, 6, 7, 8
I love it.
questions. So our first Instagram question is, what's your most favorite dance you choreographed this past month?
Oh, this past month, one that I just posted from that show, Bundish Bandits. Um, yeah, the last routine that I just uploaded
Okay.
called Love Barai. Yeah.
All right, so go watch that person. Um, and this next one is, have you seen major differences in the industry as a South Asian male dancer versus your female peers?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't know. I guess what I do say is I think what I'm liking and what I'm loving seeing is that the fact that there's so many really awesome South Asian female dancers that are really getting the credit that's due. That's what I will definitely say. Like a lot of them who have trained extensively and are really doing a lot of cool things. It's really cool to see that they are getting the spotlight that they deserve. And honestly, there are not that many South Asian male dancers that are doing this full time that I know of, at least
Hmm.
in America overall. Um, Yeah, not that I can think of. I think when it comes to South Asian full-time dancers, professional dancers, I think we can count all of us on our hands, because we all kind of know each other to that level. But yeah, I don't think there's any distinction between male female. I think it's just cool to see all the cool stuff that the females are doing, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's just so much more exposure now too because everyone's home, you know.
Yeah.
And everyone has the time to look up people and binge and really get to know everyone. So yeah, I totally agree. This next question comes from a friend of yours who's also a friend of
Oh,
mine who wants me to ask you if you would like to do a collab.
oh, I am
Melvin,
down.
Melvin wants to collab.
Melvin, I am down. Next, Melvin, where are you? Hopefully, if you're around, I am down, Melvin. And
Yes,
Janet,
Melvin.
of course.
Zoom? Zoom collab?
Zoom
I'm
collab.
down. One more question. Who inspired you, if someone, who inspired you to be a dancer? And what would you like to do with dance in the future?
Who inspired me to dance? There's a lot of people. I think growing up, probably so many, so hard. Obviously, Hrithik Roshan's one. For
Yes.
every Indian guy loves Hrithik Roshan. Um, always been a really big fan of Remo D'Souza's work because of his whole backstory and everything, what he went through to get to where he is. Super like hard struggles. Like he did the whole dancer journey of like never knowing when he was getting a gig to doing what he is now. So one of definitely my bigger inspirations in life. And if I could even be anywhere near like him, I would have hit all my goals. And I missed a part. What was the last
Oh
part of
yeah,
that
what do you
question?
want to do with dance in the future?
Oh, well, one goal is still left. I do want to create my own show.
That's exciting.
How and when that will happen, I don't know, but it will happen sooner or later. And I think I'm also trying to find different creative ways to make more content, whether it's for digital or anything else, that's not just the way I've been typically doing, where it's just like recording a dance or something. Uh, Maybe trying to work a little bit more on like the storytelling side of things, and really honing in on maybe stronger aspects of that side as well, to make a little bit more of a deeper connection.
Yeah. I have to say, making dance videos is really fun.
Yeah, it is. It is lots of fun.
The process, though.
Oh yeah. The process is a lot, but like it's fun when you're actually just doing it at the end of it.
Yeah. It's fun when you're the dancer and you don't have to think about anything else.
Uh-huh.
All right, well, we're going to go into our 5, 6, 7, 8 rapid fire questions.
All right.
So these are just, boom, boom, boom. What habits have you implemented this year that's made a really positive shift for you?
I think creating no matter what, as often as possible, and also being able to look at it from a different perspective. I think perspective has helped a lot. And we've talked about this a lot in terms of just in the household, that like we're still safe, we're okay, we can still work. And, just like those little things have helped look at like keep dance as a safe haven for me overall. Where it's like hasn't felt like I'm pressured, even though, yeah, there is pressure to work because it's dance is still work. But to make sure that I don't end up hating dance because of
Oh,
all
yeah.
those extra pressures.
Yeah, I'm just going to go off on a tangent. I think that's really important is, sometimes people say be wary of making your passion your form of making income, because
Mhm.
you really have to be mindful of making sure that like you remember why you're there in the
Yeah,
first place. And sometimes you can suffer if you put that attachment of needing money
yeah,
into it.
yeah. It's hard. It's a hard balance. And I'm sure you've had days where you're just like, oh, man, I hate dancing. Like there's days where you're just like, I don't want to do this, even though like you really do deep down, like there's no way you're gonna quit, right? But
Yeah,
you're like, just like I'm over it for like this day.
just today.
Just today, I'm over it.
Well, I think it's also a balance too, because if you're a dancer, right, you have to be careful and you have to be purposeful in choosing saying yes to certain projects. Because if you say yes to project, and this is what happens is people say yes to projects that they actually don't want to do, and they're
Hmm.
only doing it for the money. And then what happens?
Yeah, yeah. It's a very fine line.
It's yeah. So anywho, um, what are some things that you turn to for inspiration whenever you're in your low moments?
It's really interesting. I try to kind of walk away from it a little bit, right? Like there's times where it's like dance is just not happening today. Or it's like, it's not liking what I'm doing. I kind of just literally just walk away and do something completely on the other radar. And I think I've developed that habit because of quarantine. I realized that I didn't have that many hobbies um, outside. Like I didn't have, usually when you're like working fully, you don't have that much time to like sit and do something else if you like can't, or if you have that much time off. Usually when we have time off, we're like, I'm gonna sleep for a little
Right.
bit. So I think it helped me like find different hobbies of what to do. So I'm trying to get a little bit more into learning how to cook. And
I see your stories.
they're not the greatest right now. We're getting there slowly but surely. And then just trying to find other different things that I can kind of keep my mind occupied with when like uh, you know, dance really isn't helping or isn't working out for that day or that moment.
Yeah. Cooking really helps. Cooking really helps.
Yeah, it's a good way to kind of just like de-stress. You just cut away your
Cut your frustrations
just
away.
cut
I
your
love
stress away.
cutting mushrooms. Cutting mushrooms with a sharp knife
Oh
is
yes.
one of my favorite things to do.
Oof, definitely.
um, what are you most proud of in yourself?
In myself as a person, generally.
Yeah, or as a
Uh,
person, or as an artist.
uh, I'll go with the person angle, I guess. I guess I don't think about it this too much overall. I think I like to connect with people overall, like, and try to keep connections or like, stay in touch or like be as like as myself as I can, but also not, for lack of better words, I like to stay in good connections overall. Like, try
Mm-hmm.
not to burn any bridges. If I disagree with someone, yeah, sure, there's gonna be disagreements, or like you're someone that you just don't like, or someone you don't see eye to eye with. But I try my best to not let that get in my way of like, what whether what they're creating, or if I end up working with them or anything like that. I think I tried my best to really set those differences aside in one way or another. And I, again, not that I can really recall having any bad relationships with anybody. I think the thing that I always like to try to strive for is to really make some kind of a, you know, camaraderie or some kind of like friendship or something in there that, like, at least a somewhat of a mutual understanding between
Mm-hmm.
me and the other person, where it's like, yeah, sure, we have different points of views, but at least, like, hey, I respect you, or we respect
Right.
each other one way or
We're both
another.
people. We're both
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important, I feel, especially in a dance industry, because there's
Yeah.
not enough of that, I feel.
Yeah.
Hmm. Lastly, do you have any advice for the younger generation of dancers?
Oh boy. Uh Advice. I mean, sometimes I don't even know if I like I sometimes you feel like you're not qualified enough to give advice, you know what I mean? But I think the one thing that I've learned, and you may probably agree with this, and a lot of other dancers may as well, is to not two things. I've not get too caught up in like the glitz and glam of it all, because especially now it's everything just feels like it's easy when really it's not, right? Like the dancers or anyone that feels like it's getting popular. It feels like it's a popularity contest now to like really just do things that people would like. But ultimately, if you're really in this as a career, then you have to really find what you like to do yourself. And because then you have to do it for that reason. Like you have to do it for yourself, right? You have to like what you're doing. You have to dance because you like to dance, not because you're creating it to be popular or be famous, for lack of better words. Um, and who really cares about that? Because ultimately, you're going to be miserable if you're doing stuff that you hate. And then second, I think the biggest one, at least for me, is like you gotta keep learning every day, even if it's like the smallest things. Every single day, learn, whether it's you dancing by yourself or you learning a class or learning watching a video or whatever it is. Uh, I think that's what's helped me overall, and keeps me kind of as grounded as possible. Because like once you're working, you don't really take time to really think like, am I still growing? Or like, you still want to grow, but like it's not as often as when you're younger. So the younger you are, take advantage of how much you can really grow, and to what kind of dancer or choreographer or whatever kind of artist you want to be. Because um, once you get in it, there's not that much time to
Right.
learn overall. And then it's just go, go, go. Like book a gig, book this, let's go, book a show. And after that, yeah, that's all your mind goes on. So I don't know, learn as much as you can, and then don't get too caught up in trying to be popular because there's no fun in that.
No, not at all. It's not gonna yeah, good luck if good luck trying to keep going with that
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're not gonna
Uh,
last.
no, and you're gonna hate it yourself. You're gonna hate yourself, and you're gonna hate what you do. And you don't.
Hmm.
No one dances for to be like someone cool or like so, to be like the next big thing. People get there because of the work that they put in, essentially.
Right.
And most of the times, people don't see the other side of it because obviously they haven't been there with that person from day one. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, I want to give people a chance to if they wanted to take class with you. Are you teaching right now? What days are you teaching? Do you have any upcoming workshops or anything like that?
Yeah, so in terms of workshops, I announce a new 2 or 3 workshops a month right now, that I'll announce continuously on my like social media or whatever. And then I've started mostly like a class intensive overall. So starting next week, it's like a 6-week class intensive that you could do with me. There's 2 intensives that I'm doing starting next week, and then my company is also doing a host of different intensives with like 5 or 6 different styles that we're teaching in different classes. So that's also starting next week too. So lots of different options for people to take class, and we're trying to make it as like interactive as possible. So trying to give feedback and with like them sending us videos and really making sure that we're giving the best experience in terms of classes as much as possible. So workshops, at least 2 or 3 every month, and then otherwise, like these intensives will keep going every 6 weeks for sure.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Um, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations from the time I first met you to where you are now. It's just really beautiful to see your journey, and I really cannot wait to see where you go from here.
Oh, thank you. And again, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome what you're doing. And, I can't wait to tell everyone about this because I think this is something super, super like important, necessary. And I think every artist, dancer, anybody, not even, they don't have to be that. I think this will really help them to see the other side of things that you're really trying to touch base on. So super proud of you for doing this, and hope this grows into something super big for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to help because I feel like not a lot of we don't get that much education with dance.
Hmm.
Once you decide to become a dancer, you're kind of on your own.
Yeah,
Even if you go to school, still,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, you're still learning on your
definitely.
own. So I'm really hoping that this is a safe place for people to learn stuff outside of dance itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Rohit. Thanks for
Of
your
course,
time.
I will
I
see you
will.
soon, hopefully.
I'll see you soon. Whoa.
I mean, I'm gonna be in Arizona starting next month, so I don't know.
You forever?
No, for a couple months. I'm just skipping winter here, so
Oh, that's a great option.
semi closer. Yeah, maybe we'll
Yeah,
figure
okay.
something out.
Maybe we'll meet in Death Valley at 130
Where
degrees.
we'll
Yeah.
just wait from the cars because it's gonna be too hot to step outside.
All right. Well, hopefully I'll get to see you soon.
Yes,
And thanks again. And I
of
will see you next
course.
time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.